In my last chat, I feel like I blamed Justin the Martyr for being the source of everything, and it wasn't my intention. I was just using him as an example of church fathers because it was really all the big thinkers of the early church held this philosophy. So what I want to do in this chat is talk about these men and what they believed about Judaism and Jews, and how that formed everything that happened over the next 1,500 years, or 2,000 years. But before I talk about this, I think it's important to understand that these people loved God. They were devout followers of Jesus, and they were great thinkers. They brought a lot to Christianity. They blessed our faith with the concept of the Trinity. They fought against Gnosticism and other heresies that were infiltrating the Christian church, and they drew very distinct hard lines that made what we accept as orthodox today and what we hold dear as the true understanding of what Jesus was trying to say. They defined all of that, and so they gave us many, many good things. Augustine wrote Confessions, which has been in my life a profound influence on my thinking and the concept of grace. And so they gave us many things, but what they didn't understand in the context of their times, especially, Justin the Martyr was the first. He lived from 100 to 165. So he was immediately after, his life was immediately after the fall of Jerusalem, and the redefining of Christianity in its, because it was Jewish in its origin. It was way more Jewish than Gentile in its origin, and so now it was shifting, right? Because there was such a great earthquake in the religious landscape of the time when Jerusalem fell, and of course Judaism was shifting a lot too. And so Justin the Martyr wrote a treatise called Dialogue of Trypho. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. This is gonna be a little heavy on the reading, but he supposed a conversation with a Jewish man who had escaped Jerusalem and made it to Ephesus. And in it, he denounces Jews as Christ killers, describing Jews as more hard-headed and ungodly than all the other races. He writes, all this has happened to you rightfully and well, for you slew the just one and the prophets before him. Irenaeus is another church father in this. They were contemporaries of each other. Irenaeus is thought to be a disciple of Polycarp, who was a disciple of John. So he really has a lot of apostolic authority because he came down from one of the disciples. And he also, in his writings, is the Jews are called the Christ-killing Jews. He contends that the administration of the Jews was temporary, and that the church is the fruit that was taken, and Israel, or the Jews, are the leaves that were left behind. So there's that beginning thought process of the church is what God took and left the Jews behind. They're not part of God's plan anymore now that Jesus has come. Tertullian lived from 155 to 220. He has a Adversus Judaeos, I'm not sure, against the Jews is what the treatise is called. And it's an essay on why the church is now the heir to the promises of the Old Testament. I mean, that's the foundation of it's the foundation of what he was writing, and it's the foundation of what the church lived out for, many still believe that the promises were taken away from the Jews and given to the believers in Jesus. And John Chrysostom lived from 347 to 407, And he wrote a homily entitled Against the Jews, which is filled with it's just accusations against Jewish people. And Augustine was a big influence. He lived from 354 to 430, and his contention is that the Jews were like Cain. They were marked forever by God for their evil. And Jews are, here's his quote, "Slay them not, lest my people forget." So he wrote that, let's don't kill the Jews, because then we might forget what unfaithfulness looks like. And actually, as history unfolds, the fact that Augustine said don't kill them, it turns out to help them not get murdered by us Christians who held this belief system. And so kind of what I'm trying to drive towards in this is that misguided men who got a lot of things right got Israel's relationship to God wrong at the very beginning of Christianity. And that fueled hatred, a misunderstanding, a fear, almost a superstition towards this people that are in fact the apple of God's eye.